College Football Inquirer with Ross Dellenger and Steven Godfrey. I am Andy Staples. Ross has just covered LSU Alabama, but was busy working on a huge off-field story that we'll be talking about very soon. But first, guys, we got to talk about what happened on the field on Saturday. Not so much in LSU Alabama, because Alabama dispatched zombie LSU pretty easily, but another group of zombies, the zombies in State College, zombie Penn State, nearly took out Indiana. But, oh, man, Fernando Mendoza back against the wall led the Hoosiers down the field, and Omar Cooper with one of the best catches you will ever see to win the game.
And Andy, we have, in our careers, we've all seen fourth quarter comebacks. Okay. Minute and a half, 2 minutes, you're going down the field. I think what made yesterday so different and special was that every play when Indiana got the ball was either this aggressive, amazing, effective blitz from the Penn State defense, right? The drive opens with a sack. And you kind of think like, oh man, Penn State's going to do this. They're going to get that win that eluded James Franklin for the overwhelming majority of his time in Happy Valley, right? And then Mendoza, look, I don't put a lot of attention or faith in the Heisman. I try and stay away from Heisman moment because it's so subjective. But my gosh, the passes that Mendoza makes to take Indiana down the field with that receiving core. If for some reason, I think a lot of people yesterday might have actually been watching Indiana, really focusing on Indiana for the first time, who don't watch the Big Ten, who aren't familiar with the Hoosiers. It's kind of a light schedule, right, guys? Like it was one of those you kind of flip in and check it out. You're on upset alert. Maybe you're waiting for your game to start. That was an incredibly physically talented, just dynamic Indiana offense going down the field until
with
the actual
no Elijah Surratt, by the way,
with the top receiver. It's top receiver
as
out.
Good as they
and the
look.
most impressive thing on the field was the receiving core in the last drive. I mean, Mendoza was amazing, right? But like the catches from these receivers, Becker on maybe the catch before the touchdown, and then of course the touchdown catch was just absurd. The catch before Becker's to move him down the field from Mendoza was great, and the throw from Mendoza right down the middle of the field was like perfect. Yeah. I mean, it was just, you know what it reminded me of? The way they sort of moved down the field there. And I was watching it on a tiny iPad that was put on a dashboard as I was driving into Tuscaloosa. But like, it reminded me of like Tom Brady and his crew of Patriot receivers in a comeback. Like we've seen it just, I don't know, that's like popped in my head as I was watching it. I'm like, this is like an NFL
small white
team,
guys.
You know?
Yeah.
Yes.
Probably needed a few.
But this is like an NFL team's passing game. And then the toe touch was just, he was like floating. Omar Cooper was like floating in air, and you could see him look down at the out of bounds, like, where am I? And just to do what he did, it was phenomenal, man.
You couldn't fault, and you really couldn't fault Penn State for dialing up the defense the way they did, because the blitz works on the first play. The pressure works because Mendoza also has, I can't remember which receiver it was. Basically, the seam is open, and he kind of lofts it under pressure and misses the receiver by about 5 yards because they're blitzing effectively. They're blitzing from different areas, and it worked until it didn't. It was one of the most exciting fourth quarter moments I've seen in a long time.
The deny Dennis Sutton sack, when you thought after that, like, oh, they're done. They're cooked. So, there's no fault at all with Jim Knowles' decision-making on the last drive. The pressure was great. They didn't drop into the prevent, which prevents you from winning. They were playing it straight up and just got beat by a better quarterback. And that's what you want. Like, and everybody was saying, like, all of social media was like, if Fernando Mendoza wants to win the Heisman, now's the time. And you get the Heisman moment. Now, does that mean he's going to win it over Ty Simpson or Julian Saint? I don't know. But that's something everybody's going to remember, was when his back was against the wall, he played his best. And Curt Cignetti after the game, because, Curt Cignetti before the game, poor Jenny Taft. Like she got blown up in the first pregame interview. She goes, Indiana's never won at Penn State. He goes, this team's never played at Penn State.
Yeah. But you got to watch out for
after that game is just all smiles. He's like a kid in a candy store. Like, what? A kid who just walked into the candy store and was handed $100 gift card, essentially. Like, what just happened here? This is amazing. I love this game.
That was the most candor I've seen from him in the last 2 years. You kind of felt like he was experiencing. Coaches always want to distance themselves from, like, they always want to present as stoic even after something monumental has occurred, because they always want to be distanced from the moment. Like, they're objective, they're working ahead. That's kind of the image you want to portray. Curt Cignetti, it kind of felt like he was watching that with the rest of us just unfold in real time and was just as amazed as we were.
Well, and he kind of was, because, I mean, yes, you have control over if what your OC calls and all of that. But once this ball is snapped and Fernando Mendoza's dropping back to throw to Omar Cooper, there's nothing you can do. Like, you are just watching it with the rest of us.
I'm trying to think of what he said afterward. He's like, I think his first words were, refuse to lose, just to refuse to lose, which is coming from a person who presides over what was, I think, just last year, before they won enough games, the losingest college football program in the country, I believe.
Yes,
right?
Ross. They still, as of this recording, they still hold the record for losses from an FBS program over a certain amount of time, and not as in total losses. I think it's 730 something. That's still on the books, obviously. No matter what Indiana, they could win 4 national titles in a row. They still have more losses in FBS history than any other program.
Crazy.
It's truly amazing what he's done. And now, look, you're going to get the people criticizing Indiana for not blowing out zombie Penn State. I don't know. Oregon didn't blow them out either.
Nope.
Indiana beat Oregon. I have no problem with Indiana. I think Indiana is a playoff team. I think Indiana is one of the best teams in the country. I did actually move Texas A&M above Indiana in my projected playoff. But the thing is, if Indiana were to beat Ohio State in the Big Ten championship game, which they are going to play in now, that would have been in doubt had they lost to Penn State.
Yeah.
Then Indiana would be number 1. So it doesn't really matter where they are relative to A&M or Ohio State. Like, they'll figure all that out.
Yeah, I have no problem with the margin of victory, because the narrative we've constructed in the SEC is that it's the NFL every week. You won on the road against a team that had enough talent, at least, to be preseason number 1 in a lot of people's polls. They're still formidable. You got to win week to week. I have no problem with this whatsoever. Although you bring up an interesting point about number 1. I don't want to get into this, Andy, but I did see that Texas A&M is beating more ranked opponents on the road than I think pretty much anybody else in this conversation after winning at Missouri yesterday. If we do want to mess with number 1 this week, or mess with that top order on Tuesday night, I wouldn't mind, by virtue of that Missouri win yesterday, putting A&M at number 1. If you just want to sort of, zhuzh it up for conversation this week.
And they cleared out another stadium, and it kind of depends. It will depend on how Missouri finishes, how LSU finishes, how some of these Texas A&M wins look, because right now their best win is at Notre Dame. Their SEC schedule has proven not quite as difficult as we thought it was going to be. But again, they've got to play Texas at the end, so that will make it more difficult. But they get South Carolina next, which is not the South Carolina team we predicted at the beginning of the season. So
they missed. We will learn more
about them.
Alabama, Georgia, and Ole Miss. Right? They missed all 3. Mm-hmm. They don't play any of those 3.
Yep.
Which is certainly beneficial, but they do. There's certainly an argument for them to. What they did yesterday really kind of surprised me. Like, I didn't expect them necessarily to lose, but I didn't expect them to steamroll what I really think is a good Missouri team. They are.
Yeah.
The Aggies, man. They're different. They're different. Andy, I think Ari has been saying this maybe all season. I feel like the Elko Aggies are sort of different than these other Aggies that started 6-2 or 7-1, right, and then collapsed. They just seem very different.
That's why all these open programs right now, you got to find your Elko, man. You got to all these open programs. Find your Elko.
Well, you discovered that Manny Diaz was Penn State's Elko, and then Manny Diaz and Duke lost to UConn yesterday. So maybe not more is their Elko.
But they still might make the ACC championship game. They still have the high or the second highest percentage, I think I saw, to make the ACC championship game. Duke, 5-4 Duke right now, because 3 of their losses are non-conference, and they get, I think, Virginia at home, and just the way their schedule sort of lines up. They still, I think it's them and Georgia Tech are the 2 sort of favorites in the percentages to make the ACC championship game.
The ACC is a mess. Virginia lost to Wake Forest last night. Cal
Louisville
beats Louisville in overtime. Gutsy
Louisville.
Call by Justin Wilcox and Brian Harsin at the end of that game. I loved it. Let's go win the game and go home, boys.
How about the Calgorithm? No, the ACC is a complete and total disaster. Duke is technically alive and 5-4. Would that be the worst case scenario for the playoff? Is that how many more losses? Well, I guess you couldn't tack another loss on Duke and then keep them alive. And
no,
then
they have to win out.
No, they have to win out.
A 4-loss team in the playoff, though.
Yeah, before we get to Oregon and to Texas Tech, who we do need to talk about too, let's briefly discuss the doomsday scenario in the ACC of Duke winning out and winning the ACC championship. Because what if JMU wins out and wins the Sun Belt and is 12-1, and then your American champ is 11-2? Does the ACC champ make the playoff? Because I think people get confused. They think. They think there's a spot guaranteed for every power conference. So I think a lot of casuals think that.
Okay.
It's not. It is the five highest ranked conference champs.
I think after yesterday, after Friday night, I think the ACC would be okay because Tulane went to, which was my pick, by the way. Tulane went to Memphis, won on the road. We're handing out probably too many losses at the group of 5 level right now, because I was actually going to stump at some point in the show for, hey, watch out for James Madison, especially last night, because San Diego State had 1 loss. They got whipped overnight, basically, at Hawaii. James Madison is coming on pretty strong as well. I don't know if they would have the virtue of the resume necessarily, guys, but also watch out. They would play Southern Miss most likely in the Sun Belt Championship. I don't know how that would reflect as a resume win, but it does feel like there's more momentum. I feel like the G5 picture, Andy, is too clouded for anybody to jump an ACC champion.
Well,
unless
I also
it's a 4-loss Duke.
Yeah, unless it's Duke. That would be the doomsday.
It's only Duke is the issue. Like any of the other ones, whether it's
everybody
Georgia
else
Tech,
right.
Virginia, Pittsburgh, Louisville, they're fine.
So one of the losses that Duke has, if this actually happens, is to Tulane.
Yeah. Right.
So maybe Tulane is still alive,
there, right? Yeah.
That's right. Yeah. So I'm saying it wrong. I'm saying it like an outside. Tulane. Sorry, Ross. Tulane is still alive, right, to win the American, and then they would have a head-to-head win over the ACC champion. Thank you, Andy. Thank you for sowing this amount of discord.
Andy,
I appreciate this. This is great.
Yeah, that would be that. Wow, I didn't even think about that scenario happening. But Duke, and it's not that far stretch. Duke's final games they host Virginia, they play at North Carolina, and they host Wake Forest. The Wake Forest team that's playing really well and pulled another upset Saturday. But it's not far fetched to see them getting to the ACC championship game. And I mean, you get there, and who knows what could happen, right? The odds are that Georgia Tech's going to be who they face, but obviously there's like 4 or 5 teams still in the midst, right? Pitt, SMU, all those, Virginia.
Pittsburgh is your ACC and general college football agent of chaos, because Notre Dame plays at Pitt this coming week, and then Pitt goes back into ACC play where they only have 1 loss. They can really, if Pitt wins out, it really is going to screw some stuff up.
I want to say this really fast in the ACC. A lot of people in the industry, when I was doing sort of the coach analysis, the anonymous thing in the spring, they said that Wake would probably be the worst team in the Power 4 this year. They punched the bowl ticket last night. They're 6-3. Yeah. I think I made some jokes on social after week 1 that the worst game of the year was a 10-9 Wake win over Kennesaw. Wake is bowling. Kennesaw is 7-2. I just want to shout that out. Sometimes we're totally wrong.
And I want to point out
that's a surprise.
I want to point out that when the season totals came out at BetMGM, I wrote a column saying, here are the ones you need to pick. Wake over 4.5, North Carolina under 7.5, and we don't need to talk about the rest of it.
Yeah, everything else was okay.
Everything else was pretty horrible, but we'll talk about those. I believed in Jake Dickert. I believed in a guy who brings 3 starting offensive linemen from his old spot to his new spot.
Jake Dickert. Yeah. I mean, look, a lot of jobs are going to open. I found a way to project 40 openings. We talked about this 2 weeks ago. I would keep an eye on Jake Dickert, maybe not leaving in year 1, but this guy obviously knows what he's doing, taking situations like Washington State and Wake Forest and turning them into relevant teams.
Yes.
Yeah, it's been
Speaking of
really
relevant
impressive.
Teams, let's head back to the really relevant teams in the college football playoff conversation. Oregon goes to Iowa, and I believe, Mr. Godfrey, you just sort of laid it all out the other day and nailed it.
This is something we have talked a little bit about in our game previews this year, but we should really sit with it for a second, because we have seen some of America's most talented offenses, those years when Ohio State or Penn State or Michigan would come in and they would be loaded with NFL skill position players. And then they would play a rugby game, like for junior, like a junior high rugby game for 3.5 quarters. And the visiting team usually kicks a field goal. They win the game and they get the hell out of there, vowing to never go again, like a bad roadside motel. This is the Iowa effect. You would think that I would have some sort of gambling presence, right? Or that I would have some sort of additional stream of income from this. I do not. Sometimes the spirit comes in, it takes over. Also, let's be honest. We've talked about this for years. This was the most at Iowa game that a top 10, top 15 team could play. This is what you do when you go to Iowa. Andy, you were correct all week. You were badgering, sorry, the Wisconsin pun. You were badgering the weather report. You kept talking about the weather. What was the first score that happened? A muffed punt.
Safety, because the long snap. Too bad.
Because of the water.
Okay, but here's the part where it was not a traditional at Iowa game, because Iowa's special teams screwed up.
Yes.
The long snapper, terrible snap on the first one. The best catch anybody made all day was the punter on the first snap. And then the second one, no shot at catching it. Very athletic move by the Australian punter to kick it out of the back of the end zone.
Yeah. There was a compliment. I was listening to the radio broadcast for a second, and that both the Oregon and Iowa radio broadcasts were complimenting the strategy there. Think about how fast that's occurring and how you're programmed to fetch the ball or try and recover and make a kick. Nope. You saved yourself, 5 points. Because
it's Iowa, he's coached properly. Yeah. He's coached. If the ball goes over your head near the end zone, kick it out. As someone tweeted at me, though, when it happened, someone said, I'm sure those 2 points won't matter much later. The final score was 18-16.
Before we we can laugh about Iowa. That'd be fine. I would actually like to compliment Iowa here before we talk about the better team. I thought this offense was really strong. The first touchdown they scored, did you see how shocked Oregon was that they passed on first down? Like, that's how that play develops, is basically that everyone on the outside is uncovered because every person in America, including Oregon's defensive staff, is like, well, it's first and goal. They're going to line up, get big, and try and run it between the tackles, and then end up throwing the outside pass. I thought this was one of the better Iowa offensive performances I've seen in a big game in a long time. Yes, they lost, but I think that's more about the caliber of opponent that they faced.
Yeah, they had a 93-yard drive in crunch time for a touchdown. Iowa did that.
Yeah.
Iowa did
that. And it was a balanced run pass. I thought it was creative. And by the way, dude, their offensive line, if you like watching offensive line play, there was that number 70, looked like he was just committing felonies on the inside, just absolutely mauling dudes. It was fantastic to watch.
The fact that Oregon won this game without their, I think they lost their top 2 receivers, right? I mean, DeCorian didn't even play because he got hurt in practice.
DeCorian did not play. Kenyon Sadiq was out, their top tight end.
Yeah.
And then Gary Bryant Jr. got hurt in the first quarter.
Right. The fact that they did this in the rain, in the cold, a very Iowa game, it really is impressive and shows that they could sort of win a few different kind of games, because we're used to Oregon winning one kind of game, just like Iowa, and they managed to go there and out Iowa a little bit in Iowa, and we saw Indiana do something similar. I think that it's a real test to go there and do what they did, and obviously they kind of made up for the issues with at receiver by running the football pretty well consistently.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say.
Against an Iowa team that obviously is known defensively for stopping the run, but Noah Whittingham, had a really big day, and they were able to pound the rock.
261 yards rushing and spread across a lot of different ball carriers. That's how you do. That's this whole Iowa win on the road thing. That's how you do it.
Yeah, 7.3 yards per carry. And I said this after the game, like if you told me Oregon would average 7.3 yards per carry, I'd assume Oregon won by 4 touchdowns.
But it's because that defense is that good. Is that they do bow in the red zone. They are really well coached in the secondary and the back end. Like it is really impressive to watch them. I now am coming around on all the Kirk Ferentz jokes we've made for all these years, but like what they do so exceptionally well. It can be maddening though, because they just never possess that extra element to win these type of games.
Yeah. And Oregon, Oregon's a playoff team. They're still going to have to earn it though. They've got to beat USC and Washington down the stretch. Like this is not going to be easy for them. They've got a mulligan to play with still. I think they're fine as a 10-2 team. I think basically every Big Ten or SEC 10-2 team is in. Yeah, at this point. Yeah.
They'll have a complete resume, Andy, if they sweep out. Like there won't be any debate. Is that what you're asking?
No, 11-1 is not a debate at all. I'm wondering if they lose one of these, if 10-2, if they're on the border, but I think they're still in.
Yeah, I would think so. Obviously, Washington didn't look good yesterday. By the way, interesting how Wisconsin comes out and gives the vote of support that all three of us had been hearing behind the scenes for Luke Fickell, and then they win a Big Ten game for the first time. That was interesting.
Chris McIntosh for a while on Friday wrote a story about it in On 3, why they're keeping Fickell, sort of what the behind the scenes stuff was, and why they felt like he hadn't really been given a fair shot. And it's a grand experiment because, like you said, Godfrey, you can predict 40 openings. You probably will get to that number. We're sitting here today wondering if Florida State's going to do something with Mike Norvell. We don't know yet, and it's interesting because they've said he's in for 26, and that was a good, like, you give the vote of confidence and the way they played and how hard they played and as good as the defense was. Now, would anyone care to guess what position their leading passer played?
Wisconsin?
Yeah.
Didn't somebody say that because it was a fake punt, right? At one point,
punter was their leading passer.
The punter was the leading. Yeah.
I was going to
put their 4-star quarterback recruit in, and I believe he. Oh, I need to look it up because I can't do it justice. But I want to say he averaged, I think, 0.3 yards per attempt. It was not good. But
you know what? You do experimental stuff. Yeah. When you're in this situation,
had 2 freshman linebackers combined to make 30 tackles.
Oh my God.
It was pretty incredible.
But okay,
these passing numbers are insane. I mean, they're hard to believe.
In all seriousness,
holy crap.
I think all this is connected. I really do. There's a public statement saying, hey, that head coach and at least some of these position coaches aren't going anywhere. Mm-hmm. What is being said in the building is still gospel. This guy is going to carry through next year if you want to be a part of this program. There is young talent on the team. There's just not enough of it. Yeah. I do think it has a solidifying or strengthening effect to then go out. And also, if you are the coaching staff, dude, get loose. Your season's cooked. What do they have? 2 wins coming into this?
They went to Carter Smith, who's the freshman quarterback. 3 of 12 for 8 yards. But Carter Smith is a better runner. And guess what? It's Wisconsin. So they weren't running the ball great. By the way, they averaged 3.3 yards a carry against Washington. But Cooper Catalano and Mason Posta, those are the 2 freshman linebackers that I was referring to. Cooper Catalano with 19 tackles, 12 solo. Mason Posta with 11 tackles, 6 solo. Like that's what you're building around right now.
Like, I didn't watch this game. I am looking at these statistics. How did Washington lose this game?
They could not score. They would get
like they got in the red zone
shut down. Or not even to the red zone. They'd get across midfield and then they just the drive would die and they'd have to punt. And it wasn't like Wisconsin could really move the ball either. So
this is a good game for those of you watching, listening, who aren't super familiar with advanced stats. When you talk about drive efficiency and points per drive, this is why we go back to those stats, because the cumulative, are you just looking at the regular box, Ross, I assume? Like the regular box score? Yeah. So this is why we have advanced analytics, because that data, if you had to reconstruct, I used to play this game with Bill Connolly. I would give him a box score and make him reconstruct the game blind. And he would be able to do it within, like he would be able to almost spit out the AP report based off the numbers. But this is one that's like a trick, because it looks like Washington should have won this by 14, 17 points.
Yeah. It's wild.
Got to score, man.
In a place with better weather, Lubbock, Texas, where Patrick Mahomes was on hand to watch in person because he's on a bye week. Texas Tech annihilated BYU. Texas Tech's defense looked impenetrable. BYU did eventually score in the fourth quarter, but it was garbage time. Guys, Texas Tech is not just a Big 12 team that will make the playoff. Texas Tech, from a talent standpoint, and Ross, you wrote about this last week. Texas Tech, from a talent standpoint, looks like a good Big 12, good Big 10 or good SEC team roster-wise.
Yeah, I was talking to somebody about outside of the Big 10 and SEC who are teams who could win a game in the playoff, right? And there's maybe only two that come to mind, Notre Dame and Texas Tech. I mean, those are the two that sort of come to mind. And by the way, excluding Notre Dame, the ACC and the Big 12 in the 12-team playoff era, now we've only had one postseason last year, are still looking for their first win. So perhaps Texas Tech is that team. They, the league's ACC and Big 12 went 0-3 last year, and Texas Tech looks like maybe the only team that you could really see winning a playoff game. And if Texas Tech keeps going like it is, there's a chance, depending on what happens down the stretch with the SEC and Big 10, that they get a bye. Maybe they can get up there in that top four. It would take some upsets, right? It would take some upsets from SEC, Big 10, and you really wish that Texas Tech had played an out of conference game that you could measure them by against the SEC and Big 10. They did not. They played. Who did they play? Was it Washington State or something?
They did.
I can't remember.
Yeah. It was not a great non-conference slate.
You ready?
Yeah.
It is Arkansas, Pine Bluff, Kent State, Oregon State.
Yeah.
Oregon State. That's what it was. Yeah.
Guys, if I want to find something,
that's a problem.
If I want to find something, only because this game was so lopsided, so I'm kind of skipping past the game. So if I want to find something that if I'm Texas Tech, I can build a little anxiety on, and I don't feel like I'm a world beater at this moment. Quarterback play was not always great in this game. The 4 sacks that Morton took, some of the decision making, because a lot of those sacks were just hanging on.
He's not healthy.
He's playing hurt though.
He's not healthy.
You need to remember he's playing hurt.
Yeah,
but
hairline fracture. Didn't they report that during the game? I want to say right. Hairline fracture is fibia or something.
I know he's hurt.
The fibula. Yeah, one of the 2 lower leg bones. So
one of those important things.
He is not 100%. But their backup is out for the year.
This is what I'm getting at. What he was, there were at times, so it was more early in the game when it was closer that BYU was able to get home on a lot of stuff because he was not making decisions and getting it out. If you're talking about them advancing in the playoff, that is going to be the bullseye for all of the opposing defenses that they're going to see. And I think that is the weakness because this game probably they should have had a wider margin earlier in the game, but there were a couple drives that stall out because of the decision making. I know he's hurt, but you don't have any other option. So that's the weak point.
Yeah. It is unfortunate. They spent, obviously we talked about it last week, they invested all this money, a lot in the lines, both lines more than probably any place. And they didn't need to invest in the quarterback position, right? They had a great starter and a really good backup. And now you've got a starter who's hurt and the backup who had taken over as the starter is out for the season. And you look at all their sort of dreams and the investment and all built up for this season, and the most important position on the team could be their undoing this year. But yeah, you're right, Godfrey, to win a playoff game. But you think about when the playoff games will happen, right? Late December into January, cold, all that stuff. They're gonna have to run the ball and play good defense, and they seem to be able to do that pretty well. They at least
like I said, I at this point I'm trying to play contrarian because I do feel like you can punch them in from this. We created some juxtaposition in the Big 12 last week. I think that's done. I don't see anybody catching back up to them.
They're different.
Yeah, I'm now looking at Texas Tech versus the playoff field when I'm picking on the quarterback play because they're going to be fine. We're done with evaluating this league. They're in.
Yeah, Notre Dame's another one that great defense, runs the ball really well. And that's why those two teams are the ones you could kind of see okay, they could win a playoff game or some playoff games outside of the Big 10 and SEC.
Worst weather of the day yesterday.
Of the schools.
I don't know if you guys caught the second half. That was the worst weather
I
saw yesterday.
Right? Did it snow?
Snowed at Notre Dame.
Yeah, I would go wintry. I would go wintry Knicks.
No Blake Horvath.
Yeah,
it snowed at Notre Dame. It was I left. I was home in Biloxi this past week and then drove up to Tuscaloosa. I left Biloxi and it was 80 degrees and like completely sunny. I was on a boat Friday. This country.
Yeah, Ross, you're describing why American population has moved over 3 generations.
There you go. That's right. There you go.
You don't have to be in northern Indiana unless you want to.
Yeah.
Sorry.
We have a lot. I will say we have a lot of northern Louisiana listeners, Godfrey. That
North
most
Louisiana
of them live in South Bend. No, I mean North Indiana. I'm sorry.
Oh, we got a lot of North Louisiana listeners too. I'm related to them by marriage.
Probably. Yes. Yeah, that's right.
No,
gentlemen, if you
go ahead and get us
if you want to watch us, be you in northern Indiana or northern Louisiana, turn on your smart TV, look for the Yahoo Sports Network icon, click that sucker, and you can watch the College Football Inquirer. You don't have to just listen. You can see the beautiful bookshelf behind Steven Godfrey. Also, anytime, day or night, wherever you are, whatever device you're on, yahoosports.tv is how you find all of the Yahoo Sports Network offerings, including the College Football Inquirer. Gentlemen, we've talked a lot about what happened on the field. Ross Dellenger wrote a huge story on Sunday morning about something happening off the field in the Big Ten that could very much influence what happens on the field in the future of college football. We'll talk about it when we come back. We are back at the College Football Inquirer, and on Sunday morning, our guy Ross Dellenger dropped a big one. The Big Ten, considering going forward with this private equity agreement, possibly without Michigan and USC. Ross, please explain this like I'm 5 so I can understand this.
Yeah. Well, we all talked about it maybe a month ago or so when the kind of first came to light publicly, the Big Ten's PE deal, $2.4 billion with University of California Investment Fund, a pension system in California. And they would buy 10% of the Big Ten, and they would give the Big Ten $2.4 billion for it, and that money would be distributed unevenly to the 18 schools. That's one part of the deal, right? The second part of the deal is a new sort of business enterprise called Big Ten Enterprises that would be the business kind of for-profit part of the Big Ten sort of created from this. And then the third part is sort of a long-term uneven distribution of revenue. So that's sort of the baseline of the deal. None of that's really changed. We know that about 3 weeks ago, this was all put on pause because Michigan and USC, specifically USC's, some of their administrators in their board and Michigan's board specifically does not agree with the deal, and they were not going to vote for it. So the vote, which was supposed to happen around 3 or 4 weeks ago, there was the thought to be a vote, got paused. Well, now, over the last 2 or 3 weeks, enough Big Ten schools, perhaps the 16 other schools, want to do this deal bad enough that they are certainly encouraging this deal to come to a vote, even though Michigan and USC seem to be fairly against it still. And the vote is sort of penciled in for November 21st. And Michigan and USC were told about that earlier this week, that they have until then to decide, or the Big Ten will be going to vote on this deal. So that's sort of the gist. I don't think that the Big Ten and USC, are necessarily going to come around anytime soon. And so if they don't, that would mean that the 16 Big Ten schools, if they agree on November 21st to adopt this deal, that means they're going to get the benefits, the financial benefits and windfall of the capital infusion, and Michigan and USC won't get that. And we're talking over $100 million per school. An immediate infusion. And they also, maybe this is the most important, that has piqued, I know, Andy's interest especially, is this comes with an extension of the grant of rights for 10 additional years from 2036 to 2046. And they would not be, Michigan and USC would not be extending the grant of rights, but everybody else would, leaving them after 2036 kind of in limbo. I know that's 10 years from now or so, but
oh, Ross, see, here's the thing. They wouldn't be in limbo, and that's what makes this so interesting. So the more desperate these schools get, the dumber the ideas get. So this is the lesser lights of the Big Ten who are desperate to stay together with Ohio State and Michigan. Mm-hmm. This is not about the money. Mm-mm. Like the Michigan region who called this a payday loan was exactly right. It's not about the money. This is about tying these schools together so that Michigan and Ohio State don't think to call Alabama and LSU and be like, you know what? We could have a lot more money and a lot less headaches if we just did this thing together and left Purdue and Vanderbilt on the side of the road. So, yeah, I love that their best idea now is let's play chicken with Michigan. Because you know what will happen if Michigan is a free agent in 2036?
There wouldn't be a free agent for long.
Michigan will become a member of the SEC.
Yeah.
I'm just kind of letting Andy do. I'm going to let Andy do my bit today. Yeah. I'll save my voice.
Instantly. Michigan does not need you.
Yeah.
$100 million extra dollars to Michigan. Well, let's call Larry Ellison's wife and see if she can find that in the couch cushions. It is not a problem. They don't need it. Do not. I'm just telling you guys this now, not you guys, but the other Big Ten schools. Do not poke this Wolverine. Don't do it. They don't need you. They can go independent. They could form an alliance with Notre Dame that will have the ghost of Fielding Yost somehow die again because he'd say something horrible about Catholics. But guess what? They'd be together.
This is like being in a band and you're getting ready to play your solo, and then one of your bandmates is like, "Oh no, I got it. But keep going. You're doing great. You're doing great. I can't. I have nothing to add because you're saying absolutely everything I would. So yeah, keep going. Yeah. Keep going. Yeah.
Well, I'm going to tee you up in a second.
Okay. No. I'm fine with this. You're doing great.
But I just want to reiterate: Illinois, Purdue, Minnesota, all of you guys that want to desperately stay attached to the Big Ten and keep and kick this can down the road so that the biggest brands don't all get together and form a super league. Do not poke Michigan. They don't need you. Like you have brought a butter knife to a gunfight.
Buddy, they got lawyers. They got lawyers who got lawyers who got lawyers. And when the only thing that's ever been undefeated in the time that I've covered the sport is billable hours, this is an interesting strategy for sure. But yeah, everything he said, it's hard to do a 3-person panel when I'm just like that. But yeah, you know what? It's been too calm on this front for like what, Ross? Like 4 months? Like it feels like things have been, I'm not saying stable, they've just been quiet. So this fits. Yeah. That we're going to go into this. This one of these leagues had to have a self-inflicted wound to break apart the separate alliances. I'm talking about between the Southeastern Conference and the Big Ten. In order for a super league to actually occur within 10-ish years, the formation, maybe not the actual execution, but the formation within the next decade, we needed a division, a split within one of these leagues. There's a pretty good fissure. It's a hard word to say. It's pretty good start, especially it's not so much the number of schools ostracized here, but to Andy's point, it's the schools that you decided to piss off in this instance. And it's not as simple as like, well, they're going to join the SEC. It's not really the SEC at this point. This opens up. This is what I'm trying to encourage people to think about. This opens up a chance for USC, Michigan, Alabama, Georgia, Texas,
Notre Dame.
And maybe Florida State and maybe Miami to say, hey guys, let's maybe finally have this conversation. By the way, those ACC schools that I named would love, I've muted my own profanity, would love to have this conversation.
And if you want some PE money, well, guess who PE is going to throw more money at?
Yeah. By the way, Texas Tech would love for this to happen. The top end of the Big 12 would have this conversation. If you do this, it's not quite the Archduke getting shot, but it's pretty damn close.
It's the Lusitania getting sunk.
There it is. History dads unite. Middle-aged dude screaming on a podcast.
A couple of things here that's interesting. One of the things that was told earlier this week to those at Michigan and USC, and these conversations weren't just with the athletic director or the president, but they were with board members who have been, especially at Michigan, have been very against this deal. They were told that on the 21st, if the 16 schools decide to adopt this, that there would be like a grace period that they could, if they change their mind over the next 3 to 6 months, they could get in on the deal and reap the full financial benefits. But beyond 6 months, if they get in on the deal, they would not get the full sort of capital funds and all this stuff. So there's that going on too. It clearly there's like some, you might call it ultimatum-ish stuff.
I will simulate Michigan's response to this ultimatum. I get a grace period. Oh, look what I found in my pocket. It's one middle finger. Wait, I might not get all of that beautiful money that Illinois desperately needs, and I don't. Let me fish around in my right pocket. Oh, it's another middle finger.
God, what are we doing? Ross, I know you're a very good reporter and you're very objective. But if I could just kind of sit on your shoulder for a second, are the Big Ten people? Yeah, look, you lift. It's fine.
Like a little devil.
Yeah. No. Not to whisper something in your ear. Kind of almost a perch. Like, is the Big Ten side of this? Are they like we got this? Like, is there a level of confidence about this?
No, it's a good question. Here's one thing I tried to write in the story. Like, this is happening because the 16 other schools very much want it to happen. Like, or 14, or certainly 14 or 15 of them very much want it to happen. So they are encouraging this thing to come to a vote. I mean, they want this to happen because they need the money. They think it's a good deal. They want to start the Big Ten enterprises. They want to extend the grant of rights and hold together the league. Like, they are pushing for this to happen very much. But what is sort of another fascinating part of this is an organization which I'd have actually never heard of, learn something new, right, every day. The American Council of Trustees and Alumni, it's kind of called ACTA, is a nonprofit organization that represents more than 20,000 university board members sort of across the country. They're now getting involved, and they're going to host a call on Monday.
University board members have a union? What?
They do, somewhat. Trade association.
It's a lot.
They're getting involved. They're getting involved, and on Monday, they're hosting a call with a board of trustee member from 5 different Big Ten schools, not just Michigan and USC, but Penn State, Maryland, and maybe the most important, Ohio State, which is fascinating because Ohio State is certainly necessary for them to do any kind of 16 school deal.
Yeah.
Right. Ohio State, it would have to agree. That tells me that there's some issues within the Ohio State board. There's at least one person on the Ohio State board that doesn't agree with this.
That's where I wanted to go.
Is Ohio State doing, like, in entertaining this just to mess with Michigan? Because Ohio State doesn't need this either.
Yeah, so can we pause for a second? It's 16 teams, but let's not kid ourselves. There's a clear division. And by the way, I'm sure Rutgers and Maryland and Minnesota want this to happen, but I don't let my 5-year-old pick where we're going to go eat dinner. Like, it's the same mentality. If we did, it would just it would be heinous.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
Ohio State is maybe the only other school aside from Notre Dame that can kind of tell everyone to go verb themselves. I'm shocked that they're tethered to this, Ross. Surely they would want to maintain a sense of independence to entertain what Andy and I are cooking up, which is the phone call from Alabama and Notre Dame and Florida State or whatever. Why would Ohio State be grouped into this? It doesn't make sense.
Yeah, and I think that was the last 2 or 3 weeks since they delayed everything because of Michigan and USC. One of the big questions was, well, is Ohio State really going to come on board with this? And the fact that the Big Ten has disseminated this message to Michigan and USC that this is the vote date, and you have a decision by that date, tells me that Ohio State is at least most of the way there. They must be. And remember, Ohio State, I think last year was $30 million, maybe. Had reported, the athletic department reported a $30 million loss. And just keep that in mind. I know that some of these numbers can be like, listen, you could roll your eyes at them.
I know what we've spent on Bath and Body Works candles this holiday season so far. Les Wexner can cover it. Yeah, I promise.
Yeah.
Did you get that?
But it is interesting that
that's the best one.
They are now. Keep in mind too that part of this deal has a lot of different facets, right? One of the intentions of the deal obviously is money, and an immediate infusion of money. But one of the other and maybe bigger intentions, and Andy mentioned this earlier, is the security of a grant of rights in to avoid any kind of like Super League or the brands breaking apart. But the third intention, and maybe the biggest for Ohio State, is an uneven distribution of revenue structure. So I think Ohio State likes the uneven revenue structure.
The angle, Ross? Ross gave us that is the angle. You're exactly right.
Still does not feel like an equal trade to have unequal revenue distribution attached to a potential sinking ship of a coalition or conference.
Let's talk about real quick the details of the deal that haven't really been laid out, and I'll lay them out deep into this story because it's not the point of the story. But so about the uneven structure. So number one, there's uneven structure with the upfront money. So there's a sort of a tier, you could say. Right at the top is Michigan, Ohio State, Penn State. They get $190 million infusion of the $2.4 billion. Then there's a second group with just two schools, Oregon and USC, and they get about $145 million. And then all the other 13 schools are in the next group, which is around $110 million, is from what I'm understanding. If you total all that up, you'll get $2.31 billion roughly, leaving $90 million for the Big Ten and Big Ten enterprises and all that stuff. But so that's one.
Welcome to the league, Washington.
Distribution.
Welcome to the league, Washington. You've been here 2 years, and we think you're Rutgers.
Well,
and now you've lost to Wisconsin, so
welcome. Yeah, there you go.
Washington's already getting a half a share as well. Remember, Washington and Oregon are already getting a half a share of the distribution as well. But let's talk about the second uneven distribution structure, which is future conference revenues. And so it's Ohio State, Michigan, Penn State gets 5.5% of future conference revenues, like of the pie, right? Which is what they get now, which is what all teams get now, 5.5%, 5.56% to be exact. So Michigan, Ohio State, and Penn State keep their 5.5. Everybody else, 5% or 4.9%. There's another structure there. So that's another uneven distribution sort of structure. And then there's a third. There is a $50 million bonus for Michigan, Ohio State, Penn State, Oregon, and USC when they do the new TV deal in 2036.
This is
and
so
nobody
desperate.
else, from what I understand. Now
more money, Michigan.
Schools,
this is so desperate.
Right. But and then the last thing I'll say, all other schools have a chance to get more money and work into sort of the quote tiers and things like that by winning. Like there's a mechanism like the ACC has created, a success initiative and whatever. So that's just a breakdown of sort of the new uneven distribution structure with this deal.
Stop doing her homework. She's going to break up with you anyway. Like, stop. Like, you're so sad and desperate. This is pathetic. I'm sorry. This is like, I laughed at the beginning. Now that Ross has detailed all of the ridiculously lopsided offerings, there's tiers of this. Please, God, stay my girlfriend for 2 more weeks. Like, this is
the more
awful.
desperate they get. The more desperate they get, the dumber they get.
I can hear literally, you can hear the levee breaking. You can see this league, because of its size as well, breaking apart. And you can just see Greg Sankey coming in, swooping up the top 50% from his league, cherry picking the rest, forming a super league, running college football, and having people like me killed. Well, I can just see all this happening in 10 years.
Yeah, and this is a leadership issue in the Big Ten as well, because like a Mike Slive or Greg Sankey would have shut this down before it got to this point.
I got to start giving Sankey some credit in like the ruthless, in a very ruthless way, because like, you know, Slive was always the standard, but like him choosing to do nothing and not engaging in some of this kind of stuff that Petiti, I guess, is allowing, if that's the right verb, is going to be the undoing. I don't know if this
is him just saying sounds good, because look, when these giant schools, because we're talking about, you know, Illinois and Wisconsin and Iowa and Minnesota, and in comparison to Michigan, but these are giant state universities. They are massively lucrative properties. If you're a sports conference, like they are pretty powerful, and if their executives and their board members are telling you this is what we want, it's pretty hard to ride herd on them.
I mean, I can just see this. Go ahead, Ross.
It is, and I think that, you know, I haven't seen all the numbers compiled, but like there's a lot of programs in the Big Ten that need the money for stadium debt, facilities debt. You know, and ones that have built stadiums and built renovations, and ones that have plans in the future. And they are pushing. They're pushing hard. And, the commissioner works for the schools, right? They work for the member schools. And that's I think,
whose fault is that?
He's doing here.
Spent all those years trying to keep the money away from the players. We're like, we need to build better facilities. Nope.
You had to hide the money. You had to hide the money until it ran out. And guess what? Yeah. Payday just caught up with your ass.
Now, one thing we're talking about, the segue to the SEC, like we're talking about the SEC and sort of how they feel. They had a president's meeting 3 weeks ago in New Orleans, and this came up. The Big Ten deal came up, and I can't remember if we talked about this on the podcast, but they went around the room and zero interest from SEC
when they stopped laughing
any of this deal.
Why would you?
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
Oh my goodness,
God. This is
keep it up, Big Ten. Though it is highly entertaining.
Yeah,
highly
this is a great
entertaining.
Segment. Yeah, this is a great segment.
We're going back on the field when we come back because we're gonna get you set up for the week to come because it is going to be a lot of fun. Last week was one of those we looked at the slate and we're like, I don't know about this, but I say we had more interesting individual results than any week prior.
Mm-hmm.
It's going to compound as we go forward. We'll talk about it when we come back. We're back at the College Football Inquirer. Big week coming up in college football. We talked about what the results meant. We'll talk on Tuesday about the college football playoff selection committee rankings. Guys, I think we'll probably have one of those shows where we predict what they're going to do. I don't know if we need to come back and record afterward because I think probably not going to be huge movements. BYU is going to drop out. Texas Tech's going to move up. Not much is going to happen there. But we've got games coming up that could severely affect the playoff rankings because you have two situations in the SEC where a team that has got its playoff back to the wall goes on the road to play a team that is firmly in the playoff and very much in the SEC title race. So you've got Texas going to Georgia. You've got Oklahoma going to Alabama. Those are going to be incredible scenes because Texas and Oklahoma, the two visiting teams, need to win these games. And by the way, when Texas and Oklahoma joined the league, this is what Texas and Oklahoma imagined. This is what the SEC envisioned.
Yep.
You have these massive brands meeting in these high stakes, high leverage November games. This is everything they wanted.
Absolutely. I would also add real fast, probably the game of the day for playoff implications, as we all thought back in September, would be at Heinz Field when Notre Dame goes to Pittsburgh. Because that's going to shape not only the playoff. It's Heinz Field. I think the Yinzers would agree. I'm not. What is that? A bank? We got enough of that in football.
I love how you're like the corporate name that somebody paid for is sacred.
It's the ketchup. It's ketchup, man. Come on, ketchup's
I know, it is
better
a Pittsburgh
than
product. I know.
Something that it's probably like a bank foreclosure service or something. I don't know. Sorry, I'm going to get sued by Acrisure for defamation. Ross told me to do it. Notre Dame, Pittsburgh. That'll be impactful not only on the playoff spot because Notre Dame, obviously, by the way, just to piggyback off the last segment, if I was Notre Dame, I would never join a conference until it is a super conference, by the way. Just kind of kicking back and now looking forward. Notre Dame's treatment positively from the playoff committee, as well as Pittsburgh's positioning to sort of be the nuclear option or nuclear bomb or whatever for the ACC playoff or playoff spot, I guess I should say. That's kind of the game of the day at 11 a.m. Oh, yes, by the way. 11 a.m.
So for those who've not followed the Panthers all season, a little shaky to start. They lost to West Virginia in the backyard brawl in OT, and then they had an open date. They play Louisville in their ACC opener. It went poorly. They bench Eli Holstein, and the question was, okay, what are you going to do at quarterback? They have Cole Gonzalez, who is a Western Carolina transfer, who had come in at the end of the Louisville game, but they also had a freshman named Mason Heinschel from Ohio, and Pat Narduzzi's like, okay, what do we do here? What do we do? He decides to go with the freshman. They are 5-0. Since going to the freshmen. They've played really well, but the wins are against Boston College, Florida State, Syracuse, NC State, and Stanford. Not exactly a murderer's row, but I would argue that other than the Florida State game, which was close, everything else has been a blowout. So Pittsburgh may be able to compete with Notre Dame. We'll see. But even if they can't compete with Notre Dame, they have Georgia Tech and Miami at the end.
Oh,
They will very much play a role in the ACC race.
Andy, you asked about this earlier, talking about conference champions being better than the ACC. Another two huge playoff situations going on with the American. The American's shaping up its schedule really nicely, guys. They have a game you kind of have to watch pretty much from here on out. So North Texas has one loss and is positioning themselves. If they win out, they could be that team. But South Florida and Navy play in Annapolis. They both have 2 losses now. That becomes an elimination game as well.
Also, East Carolina hosts Memphis. East Carolina's only got one loss in the American. Like, they are still in the mix. So now Memphis could take them out, but East Carolina could also win on that field with that giant state of North Carolina with the pirate inside. It's so cool.
It's a very good looking.
I love their 50-yard line logo.
It's very good looking. Another 3-loss team looking at a playoff bid. I'm sure everyone would love that, especially coming from the group of 5. We probably wouldn't hear any people from the SEC complain about that in the offseason, would we?
No, not at all. Not at all. Actually, the Greg Sankey, the SEC commissioner, was up in the Alabama press box last night before the game and did a little press gathering, and we talked about the playoff. And one of the things he said, as a way to justify the current, playoff structure where you don't have multiple AQs set for a league, for certain leagues before the season, right? He mentioned that the G5 doesn't have even one team in the top 25. Now, that might not be right. Maybe they should have a team in the top 25, right? But they don't right now. And under this 2014 Big Ten proposal that we've talked about quite a bit, the group of 5, or maybe eventually the group of 6, right, would have two AQ spots in a 24 team. So that was sort of Greg's argument, argument about that, which he mentioned. He threw out the term that he's not getting on the AQ bandwagon. So we're at a stalemate and an impasse here between the SEC and Big Ten in any new format coming next year.
I wonder if Greg Sankey is getting more bold as he watches the Big Ten with this other stuff that we just talked about, the private equity and the vote and all that.
Yeah,
I would be more bold if I were him, because to me it looks like they can't get their stuff together. And so I'm just going to make fun of them, and anything they want that I don't want, I'm going to make them look silly, because they're doing that to themselves with this PE stuff. And then now you can just say, oh, well, they're not very organized. They don't have the best interest of the sport at heart. They're not worried about it. So do our thing. But to your point, Ross, I hope that the stalemate lasts another 40 years. I kind of like 12.
Yeah. For now,
stay at 12.
Yeah, definitely going to be at least at least another year. We saw Mark Keenum, the Mississippi State president, and the CFP chair of the governing board of the CFP, come out as well on Friday. See, pretty much the same thing that Greg Sankey has been saying. They're not for the AQs, and they are for a 5 plus 11, 16 team model. And Big Ten is not budging on this AQ sort of 20 plus team playoff. So we're here for a while.
Hey guys, I just saw we were talking about next week. You guys know that Virginia Tech and Florida State are playing?
Oh,
just
God.
Throw that out there. No reason whatsoever. No reason off the field whatsoever.
Yeah, no reason at all, huh? Yes.
Nope.
Yes.
Nothing at all. Just wanted to throw that out there.
I mean,
I don't know what you're talking about, Andy. We're just talking about a football game.
We think things are quiet at Florida State as we record this on Sunday morning. Things can change.
It's 10:30. Is Tallahassee in Central Time? Yeah.
No, they are on the very edge of Eastern Time.
Sucks
about
for them.
As far west of Eastern Time as you can go.
So church is getting out in a little bit.
Listen, there's never a dull moment in college
the Panhandle.
Football.
Oh, I thought in the Panhandle and in college football.
That's true too. Never dull.
Yeah.
Let the Floridian cook here.
Yeah.
Tallahassee is not in the Panhandle.
Okay.
It is in the Big Bend. They call it the Big Bend. People at Gainesville call it the armpit. Okay. So however you want to characterize.
And the rest of us are just trying to figure out why we bought y'all from Spain.
The Panhandle is on Central Time, and that is where all your bougie Mississippians and Dallasites
buddy,
have their vacation homes.
30A. You don't move your tongue. 30A. Go Rebels.
I'm gonna go put my Seaside hat on now.
Go Rebels.
That's where they filmed the Truman Show.
Khaki Confederacy. That's Georgia, Alabama, and Ole Miss. If you're a lawyer or doctor and you went through the Khaki Confederacy, you got to go 30A or it doesn't count. Your marriage will be voided. All right. Didn't think I was going to get that in on the show today.
Listen, we've been in a lot of places. This has gone a lot of directions, but all I know is everything we've talked about today, be it the playoff implications of the games that happen Saturday, the stuff going on off the field in the Big Ten, what is coming up on the field and off the field. The next few weeks are going to be bonkers. So let's just put it out there. You're going to have to be listening to the College Football Inquirer. If you really want to do it right, you watch the College Football Inquirer on the Yahoo Sports Network. But you're going to have to. This is going to be essential. Essential.
Love it.
We'll talk to you Tuesday.